Hi there, Rick here. Just reading an interesting story on the Microsoft app this morning. It says here, Canada Post workers could strike again soon. Here's why, okay? Their contract is up basically, I think, May 22nd, okay? And, well, they're trying to negotiate a new contract right now. And it just seems like the both sides, they can't come to agreement. And what was interesting about the article too was just saying that how Canada Post, yeah, they can, just run out of money to, pay their workers, right? Um, because they, over the past few years, I guess, 7, 8 years, they lost like, I don't know, $3 billion. And, well, they're already, okay, when I was reading an article this year, okay, there are like $580 million in the hole about there. They're just saying that, they weren't, the company, okay, just wasn't evolving like other companies, okay, in the market. And because they were not evolving, okay, they were just, just losing a lot of money to competition, right? Okay. Just to give you example, okay, look at Amazon, right? Amazon is, delivering on weekends. They uh, deliver a lot of packages, okay, all over around, the entire city, right? And, well, I was going to say that the hours are long too, okay? Um, you just see a lot of packages being delivered by Amazon. And, they're constant, they're constantly, I think, trying to improve, uh, just how they deliver packages too, right? Just to make it more efficient, okay? Maybe they have a better sorting system than, say, for instance, Canada Post, at their factory, right? Post, may, hire, contractors to, deliver their packages, right? Of course, the union won't like that, right? Um, you have to remember when there was a strike, before last year, before Christmas, okay, there was, I heard there was a few million packages that literally got backed up. Yeah, a few million packages, okay, and this was the busiest time of the year, probably a time where, yeah, Canada Post would probably, make its most money, right? During Christmas time. But when they went on strike, yeah, it disrupted a lot of stuff. Okay. Um, just without a contract, right? Um, they just, yeah, Canada Post, they just don't like that, right? So, I don't know about you, but what was it? Um, there was some mail, okay, that I was expecting, okay, but because Canada Post was on strike last year, okay, yeah, I didn't get it. Um, so I know what it's like because um, yeah, it just causes a lot of disruption when Canada Post goes on strike. And the Canada Post was just saying that, yeah, we could, run out of money. That's very possible. Yeah, they would run out of money because if you think about it, when you're losing in the hundreds of millions of dollars, right, yearly, how long can you, do this for before you realize, wow, our company can't do this. It's too much of a loss. We have to restructure our entire company, right? It's not that easy to restructure a big company like Canada Post too. You know, you have to remember it stretches right across Canada too, right? So you know, if they what is it, run out of money, um, yeah, they just have to close their doors and probably well, the private sector will probably pick up and you know, try to maybe work out an agreement with you know, independent contractors to, yeah, you know, deliver the mail, right? I think I mentioned to you that when I was working for, you know, some of the vinyl window companies, they were you know, just you know, not honoring their contract, right, with me, and you know, taking money off my pay, right? Um, you know, if there was a union you know, in my company, right? You know, those things, they just wouldn't happen, okay? The employer, you know, if they tried to you know, cheat the contractor, right? They just wouldn't be able to do it, okay? Um, Companies that are doing this, yeah, they're having a lot of trouble in their uh, I would just say, you know, uh, on the management side, okay, in finding, you know, reliable workers to do the work. Just because, you know, to me, it doesn't make sense, right? You know, you have a good worker, right? Um, you know, the company's making money, right? And then you decide to, for whatever reason, okay, start, you know, going back on the contract, you know, taking money off, you know, the pay you're supposed to be paying your contractors. You lose your contractor, okay, you hire somebody else. They're doing a lousy job, you get rid of them, you try somebody else, same problem, get rid of it again, and then now you're trying to call back the contractor that was doing a good job, right? So, you know, to me, it just doesn't make sense. But, you know, I just feel that there's a lot of uh, owners out there who just, they don't know how to run their company, right? And yeah, doesn't take long before, you know, if you make some very big mistakes, um, you know, in your company, it makes the difference between staying in business and just, you know, going into bankruptcy and just closing up your business, right? So, you know, like I say, it just doesn't make sense to me. But there's quite a number of owners that, you know, do that, those sorts of things that I mentioned. Um, you know, hopefully, um, you know, some people, you know, who are who have some companies, right? You know, maybe they are doing sorts of things like this, right? And you know, they change it around, okay? They you know, they don't do it the way I mentioned, you know, in this video. Um, because you know, I worked for this vinyl window company. Yeah, they were making money. They were really busy, okay? Now, you know, you can do those sorts of things in your company, even though, you know, you're making, you know, very good money, right? I would just say that it's almost like, well, I was talking to my family doctor about it. We were just talking about that Vietnamese lady in Vietnam. She stole, you know, billions of dollars. And the how she got away with it for so long was she was paying money, okay, to people to cover her tracks, okay. But eventually, it caught up. You know, somebody found out, you know, what she was doing, right? And then, you know, there was a big court case, right? Vietnam was saying that they were going to execute her for what she done, right? I was talking to my family doctor about it, and then, you know, he was just saying that it's a sickness in the head, okay. And yeah, I think it, you know, he hit the nail, you know, on the head. Yeah, the way he put it. Okay, yeah, it's a sickness in the head, right? Because you have to remember, she was it a multi-millionaire tycoon, okay? And still, she went out and she tried to, she stole billions of dollars, right? Um, because I heard that she built, was it, um, help, look after the building of, big malls around, uh, major cities, right? You make a lot of money from that. But still, that wasn't enough for her. She had to steal billions of dollars um, from from the position that she had, right? So, I was talking to a Vietnamese man, I remember, uh, about it, and then he knew quite a bit about the story just because I think it was in their Vietnamese local paper, and he was able to he read it, right? He understood what was going on, right?